And via telephone, the always busy, completely harried owner of this very fine establishment and the House Republican Caucus Chairman, Michael Hornby. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Crazy day today.
Your voice sounds shaky. Everything okay down there?
Well, caucus is in shambles at this point. We had a rough one this morning, and lucky I looked down at my phone and saw your text because I had to leave in the middle of the meltdown. So,
A melt? What's the sticking point this morning?
no, we're talking vaccines. So
vaccines.
There's
Gotcha.
a lot. We're at day 34, Rob, and that's when things start getting busy down here, and people are a little bit on edge. So nothing out of the norm. We're just having spirited conversations.
Let's talk vaccines, because initially, as this was presented at the beginning of the session, there was going to be a little loosening of the requirements for mandatory vaccines. You were going to give religious and philosophical exemptions, and I see in the latest article on Metro News that those are now being retracted. So what's the current status of the vaccine bill?
So what came out of the Health Committee was a expansion of the health exemption. So whether it's a medical exemption, so they expanded that aspect of it, and that's what they could get through committee, and that's what's coming to the floor. Now, I know there's 10 amendments already. It's still on first reading today, so we've got all the way till tomorrow or till Friday morning, actually, for all these amendments. I believe we're going to be running that bill on Friday, which I'm not very happy about, because obviously Fridays are the days I try and get home back to the EP. So that's going to be a long, drawn-out floor fight on Friday. I was hoping we'd wait until Monday to run that, but I think we're running it Friday, and there's there's probably going to be 18 to 20 amendments from both sides. And we will see where this goes. It's a moving target at this point, Rob.
Tracking was one of the issues when it came out of the Senate. They didn't have any tracking in regards to how many exemptions were being given. I understand from inside, a little source of mine told me that the governor's office wasn't real thrilled with tracking, without any tracking on that. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I was told. I haven't interviewed Governor Morrissey to find out if that's accurate.
Right.
Is that part of the concerns with this bill?
Well, I think the track, it requires each county to track how many exemptions are offered. That is what came out of health. I have not talked to the governor's office about this bill. I know the Senate is not very happy with what we have come up with, but at the same time, we have to do what we think the House needs to do. And in order for this bill to have passed through committee, this is how it ended up. Now, I think it may change on the floor because we got all 100 of us voting. My feeling is it will change a little, but I think this body has changed since last year too.
Did the measles outbreak in the Texas and New Mexico area? I think the last I heard that was up over 250 confirmed cases, and then a story broke that somebody active with measles passed through Dulles Airport. Did that news affect anything that happened with this legislation?
Oh, I'm sure it did. I mean, I'm not on the health committee, so I can't speak for them. But I would assume it did. You and your listeners know where I stand, and that's not going to really change. So,
Mike, Mike, hold on a second. Don't assume, because we get new listeners every day. What is your stance on vaccinations and such?
As a Rotarian, a past district governor for Rotary, I've traveled the world talking about polio vaccines. So I'm a firm, and I understand where these folks are coming from, but I'm a firm no on any non-mandate to measles, mumps, rubella, and polio.
And the latest number I see now is around 300 confirmed cases. which was more than the total number of measles cases reported for all of 2024 in the USA. Go ahead, Matt Miller.
Mike, you mentioned in order to pass it, that all of the things that are going on, and it may not be the bill that ultimately you want. Where's the fine line as a legislature as a whole and as a legislator as an individual where maybe you say, look, let's just table something and focus more on it next year as opposed to ultimately passing something that you may not really want?
So I think there's a lot of people that want some kind of vaccine freedom. I definitely think the medical exemption does need to be expanded because there are health concerns from people, and especially if let's say your 1-year-old, your 2-year-old had some kind of reaction, and you have another baby, maybe there should be an exemption for that so that you don't have to try something that might harm them. So I think that's something that we do need to explore. I think there is a valid argument for a religious exemption. I understand where folks are coming from and the freedom to put something in your body or not. It's just, I have to vote with my conscience and on my experience and what I think the people in my district want. And we all come from different backgrounds. So I don't know what's going to come out, Matt. It's one of those things. Everybody's kind of all over the place on this. But we will discuss this publicly on the House floor, which I think is good for West Virginia and good for the legislature.
When you talk about the religious exemption, it was my understanding, at least early on, it would not be something that you would be required in some way to prove, so to speak. How would those work if that is something that does get included?
Well, that's all going to depend on what amendment and whose amendment comes, because there's all kinds of different amendments in the system with different ideas. So I can't really speak to to that at this point. What I do know is the governor's got his executive order, so I believe that is in place where you have religious and conscientious objections, and there are people that are using that and using that to go to school at this time. If this stays the way it is, we'll have an expansion of a medical exemption. I foresee something different than what we have. I just can't predict the future because obviously there's 100 people here, and every one of those amendments will get voted on.
What seem to be, other than the ones you just mentioned, Mike, what are some of the other amendments to this legislation, and what do they deal with?
So Rob, there's too many different variations to really go, and we could be here an hour. I could read through the amendments if you want, but every single one is a complete ban of vaccines completely. There's from way on the right to way on the left.
When you say banning of vaccines, banning of mandatory vaccines, or just we don't want vaccines at all in West Virginia, period, end of story? There
are some that feel that we should ban it all.
Like even if I wanted a vaccine, I couldn't get one?
I don't think it goes quite that far, but yeah, we have from 1 to 100 on this, and it's just going to have to be a wait and see for you guys back home. And if you want to tune in Friday, it'll be a good 3-4 hour debate. So
in the event that you are unable to relax restrictions on vaccinations or mandates on vaccinations, do you then pour a little bit of extra money into the public health budgets to deal with the possible outbreaks of some of these diseases?
That's not how it works, Rob. You know that. This is a one bill, one thing. I mean, we obviously have, a split of DHHR and the health department or Department of Health. But this is a one issue bill. It doesn't affect anything else. Obviously it does, but that's not considered in this bill.
All right. Heights on Health. I'm talking to him next, so we'll get more into this with Mike. The county school systems could be consolidated under a House bill. Brad McElhenney had this article on the Metro News website earlier this week. What do you know about these consolidations, potential consolidations of school districts, Mike?
So this does not affect Berkeley or the Panhandle at all. The proposed bill is a pilot program strictly targeted for 3 counties, nowhere near the Eastern Panhandle. This is a once in a decade opportunity where we have the opportunity, because the state is already running some of these counties. So the counties have no say in what's happening because the state is already running them. This is an opportunity for us to do a pilot program to see what it would look like to have 3 counties operating under one administrative building.
Do you know yet how those particular administrators would be selected? Since you're saying the state's already running, in this case, would the state kind of determine who those will be, or will they be voted type of positions?
Well, no, the elected BOEs will still be in place from those 3 counties. So the 5, instead of 5 people, you have 15 on a board for now, because obviously they're elected. This is a sticky situation because they're all right next to each other, and it's one of those things where the state's already doing it. We've got a lot of things we need to address, but this gives the Department of Education the ability, if needed, the consolidation, if that makes any sense. I can't go into details and name counties, but we're kind of in an emergency crisis here, and this would give the Department of Education the ability to start a pilot program and see how that works and report back to us.
One of the arguments that I've heard as far as consolidating some of those and having like 3 counties working really under one board is the fact that some of our counties are pretty large land-wise, but not so large as far as population. And with the distances in between, it could create problems. Are you hearing a lot of that as well?
Yeah, no, we're hearing from a lot of boards of education from across the state, and I think that everybody kind of panics when they see something like this, but they don't have an understanding of what exactly is going on. So what they're trying to do is based on 3 counties that are very, very similar to each other and very close to each other, but all have the same issues. So we're just letting delegates and constituents know that this is something that really won't affect a lot of the state. This is part of these counties may be asking for it.
What do you know about the governor's microgrid bill, and what is a microgrid, Mike?
Above my pay grade, Rob. I'm not on energy. I do have a little bit of an understanding that we're going to be essentially burning more coal and allowing data centers to store more energy and create these microgrids so that they can store and use their own energy. I haven't got in the weeds on that yet, and I'm sure that they're going to be running these. I've talked to Clay Riley. He's a big, he knows a lot about this. Bob Fehrenbacher too. I just don't have enough information to talk intelligently on it.
All right. A question came up during an interview with somebody in education this week, one of the interviews we were doing, and had to do with the school discipline bill. Might have been with Dr. Sachs. I saw the Senate was taking another look at a school discipline bill. Have you already finished with that in the House? Is it out of your building now and it's all up to the Senate?
So we passed the House version a couple of weeks ago. It went over to the Senate. The Senate took Senator Grady. This has been her baby for the last 2 years. So she took the House's ideas, she rolled them into her bill. That will be on second reading in the Education Committee this afternoon.
Is it likely to get to the governor's office before this session ends?
I'm hoping it gets to the governor's office by mid next week.
Oh, very good. Are you? How's the class? Well, you've stepped out, by the way.
I just hear the ruckus in the hallway at this point, so they just got out, so they all survived.
So you're free then? You can stay?
I can stay, buddy.
Oh, very nice. All right, very good. What else are you working on in terms of your own legislation, Mike, that you're hoping that gets passed?
So on third reading today, I have a bill that's It's a little controversial with the municipalities, but I think it'll make the finish line to facilitate the creation of home-based businesses. I have 2 education bills on third reading in House today that basically challenge the REC decision and put the superintendent of the State Board of Education under rulemaking review, and the other one puts the Department of Education under rulemaking review, which is in basically very similar language to what Berkeley County was overwhelmingly in support of, and the governor wasn't back when we had the constitutional amendment. It's a little different, but we're running it as a bill because I believe that the REC decision was made incorrectly.
So if it was on the ballot as a part of a referendum and required I'm sorry, I can't think of the words here. It was a constitutional amendment you were hoping to make. Why could you just do it as a legislative piece now?
So we can't. You can always run a bill, and it can be challenged by whoever and sent to the Supreme Court. So they did it as an amendment, and Berkeley Jefferson overwhelmingly supported it. I am deciding to follow up with that and do this as a bill because I believe that we need a little bit of oversight. I'd like to work with the Department of Education. I think Michelle Blatt is a fantastic superintendent. And I think we need that little bit of oversight so that we can have a say in how our education system works. We're 50th for a reason, and we need a change.
Quickly explain that oversight. What is the rulemaking review? What would that allow you to do?
So essentially what that does is every agency across the board except for the Department of Education comes to us and says, and I'll make it simple. Let's say we pass a bill that says all cars have to be blue from now on. They would come to us and they would say, okay, we're going to install these measures to make sure all cars are blue and what shades of blue they can be. And the legislative sits with the agency and says, okay, we approve of how you're going to implement this rule. That's all this does. We're not taking over the Department of Education. It enables us to work with them when they're implementing rules or implementing bills and laws that we pass.
So if
that's the simple way of saying it.
If that implementation does not seem to go along with what you are desiring or wanting, can you then make changes?
We have input, and now we have conversations with the agency to say, hey, this is not really what we meant by this all cars are blue. We want them to be one shade of blue, not 99 shades of blue. So that's the kind of weeds you can get into, but it's more of a conversation, not a overlord overlooking and saying, hey, do this way.
So ultimately you would not have authority over them, just input in terms of...
It's oversight, just like we do with all the other agencies.
If there was a stalemate, who would have the ultimate authority to make a decision in that situation?
Well, in the end, we vote on it as a legislative body or as a rulemaking review. Then it goes in front of the full body in rules.
Got it. Hey,
but most of the time we're working with the agency, and we come to an agreement. Mm-hmm. And then we move it forward.
The Stop Squatters Act, HB 2434. All right, was this the camping bill that got people talking a little while ago? This is different. What's the Stop Squatters Act?
Stop Squatters Act just puts some civil penalties and penalties in for people and protections in for homeowners or business owners that you can ask the sheriff's department to come down and help you remove squatters. It removes the squatters' rights to take over a piece of property that they don't own.
Have you had success with HB 2433 allowing magistrates under certain circumstances to be able to order a mental evaluation? We talked about this a month ago.
Yep, I have had no success with that one.
No. Why?
This
seems common sense. What's the holdup?
Judiciary has a lot of bills. I've been fortunate enough to have a few good ones run. We still got some time, so I will, revisit that when I get up there.
All right. The magistrate is the first line of defense in these situations. It would seem like they should have the ability to do that, but what do I know, I guess, right?
Well, and I guess what I didn't think about when I ran that bill was the cost to the county, state, or to the court system. Who would do these, how they would be done, are there enough of these resources? We're very lucky in Berkeley County that we have a lot of resources, but how would that be for the rest of the state? So there's consequences for that, and we haven't worked out all the details, so that's why that one is still kind of out there.
I see. Well, if it works its way further up the judiciary line, is the bill paid in a different way if the judge orders it as opposed to the magistrate?
Well, and those are the questions we're asking, right? So, but we have to figure out all those details before we can just run a bill. While it was a great idea of mine or of Daryl's, we have to have all the ducks in place before we can actually run it. So we're working those things out.
And the Matt Harvey legislation, I like to call it there, the negligent homicide things.
Yeah. I think those are all through and over to the Senate. I think we're in good shape. The Senate hasn't taken up House bills yet. We just started taking up some Senate bills. We've got about, I think, till next week to get all our House bills over to the Senate to get all their House bills over to us, and then we'll start only running each other's bills. So I'm not panicking on either of those yet.
Very good.
We were just talking earlier with Jason Huffman with Americans for Prosperity West Virginia, commenting on the fact that it's been a little bit of a slow legislative session, if you will, at the midway point. Can you pinpoint maybe why it's been a little bit slow?
Well, I think you've got to realize we've installed a new committee system and a new process. So every bill goes through a public hearing on the first day. Then it goes to markup and passage on the second. And then it goes to down to the floor. Now, it could go through a subcommittee and then a standing committee, and that doesn't change that process. It goes to a public, so you have two public hearings if it's double reference, and then two markups of discussion. So it is, I believe, a little slower, but at the same time, I think we have better policy coming to the floor than we did before. And, I mean, you have to realize a lot of the big issues we've attacked over the last 8 years. So these PEIA, certificate of need, vaccines, these big issues, the backyard brawl for the governor, those kind of things are still working through the system, and we are working on them.
All right. Final word is yours, Michael. You got anything new you want to bring up?
I don't have anything new for you guys. We're in day 34. First day of spring. This is when it gets interesting, and very busy for us. Our days are filled all the way through. Judiciary is going to start meeting both in the morning and night. So long days from now until the end.
Good luck to you.
Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too.
Mike Hornby left the classroom, and they got out okay, so I guess it all worked out. Matt, you've got a multi-sport power camp coming up here.
Yeah, Paracamp's coming up in June. It'll be the fourth year for our Power Camp. That's a sports camp for kids who are 8 to 13. We have teenagers and adults who will serve then as huddle leaders and coaches and team moms and dads and all of those kind of things. And so that's June the 3rd through the 6th up at Spring Mills. And then our outdoors camp will be in our third year, and that'll be June 17th through the 20th at the Back Creek Valley Bow and Gun Club. And looking forward to that as well, as we'll have the archery range, rifle range, fishing, camping, hiking, and all of those. And you can find out more at our website, epwvfca.org, epwvfca.org. Go to the events tab and then down to camps, and all the information is there to register as a camper or as a volunteer.